Okay, Commissioner Mitchell has joined us, so I'm going to call the meeting to order. It's 7:34. We can definitely chat more about the Black Party. That's a super fun idea. First, here we have the motion to hold the board meeting through Zoom. So this is Gaines, and I'm making that motion. This is, of course, because of the governor's ongoing disaster proclamation, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not going to read what's at the top of our agenda, but the justification is there. Is there a second?
Mitchell
seconds.
I heard Mitchell first. And I'll let that vote go to you, Julie.
Okay, Braun is absent. And Mitchell,
Yes.
Morrell,
Yes.
and Rogers is absent, and Gaines.
Yes. Thanks, Julie.
Hmm?
So citizen comments first, and I don't know if we have anybody present for comments or any written comments in advance. But if anyone is here for public comment, this is the time. You can turn your camera on, you can raise your hand, you can go in the chat.
I did not receive any, Martha.
Nothing in advance, okay. Just give it a minute in case anyone is dealing with technology. Okay, doesn't sound like we've got any. Sorry, you hear my daughter yelling at the cat, but that wasn't, I don't think that was a public comment. So moving on to approval of the minutes from the January 13th, 2021 meeting. I'll entertain a motion to approve these.
Mitchell moves to approve the minutes from the January 2022 meeting.
Morrell seconds.
Any discussion, questions?
Martha,
Yes.
I just noticed on the agenda, I wrote 2021.
Oh, and so
I
you
will
did.
update that for everybody and put a new agenda online.
Good catch. The minutes themselves at the top say 2022, so I think maybe it's just the agenda.
Okay. That was my
Okay, so if there's no discussion, Julie can roll call the vote on those.
I think.
Yeah, that's a great for
Julie, your volume is really low somehow. Like I could hear you, but barely.
Better?
Yes.
Okay. Mitchell,
Yes.
Morrell,
Yes.
and Gaines.
Yes. Okay, since we're at the approval of the bills, I'm gonna move that we bring item A from new business up the agenda in order to deal with that right away, since Mick can't stay for the whole meeting. So anything involving a vote we'll be trying to do first.
We will need
Mitchell seconds.
the bills and the petty cash.
What's that, Brian?
We will need Mick to pass the bills and the petty cash.
Right, yes, that's true. Mitchell seconded, and unless anyone has anything to say about the motion to move item A from new business up the agenda, then Julie can roll call the vote on that. Actually, do we? I'm sorry. I feel like maybe we don't need a vote on moving it up the agenda, or do we? Charles?
I think we have been voting on that previously.
Okay,
So we should continue doing it the same way.
Yeah, let's do that.
Sure. Mitchell,
Yes.
Morrell. Mick Morrell, you're muted.
Sorry, yes.
Thanks. And Gaines.
Yes. And I'm sorry for my confusion. I think it's when we table something, we don't necessarily vote on that. Okay, so this item reads, discuss invoice from Logan Consulting Services, LLC.
Okay.
Mitchell, you
Just
said,
let him sleep.
oh, Mick, do you want to mute yourself again? Cool. Mitchell, do you want to speak on this first?
Sure. We left the last meeting. I was going to communicate with Logan Consulting and Dr. Logan. I did that. I asked for a clarified invoice. Dr. Logan did provide that. He also clarified that it wasn't clear from our last invoice, but he was not charging us for interviewing for the contract or preparing to interview for the contract. And the email that he sent previous had not meant to be an invoice. So he resubmitted an invoice in the amount of $1,537.50. I move we authorize payment to Logan Consulting in the amount of $1,537.50.
And is there a second for that motion?
Morel seconds.
Okay, great. And does anyone feel that any discussion on that is needed before we move to a vote? I don't either. Mick, are you good to go to the vote?
Yes, I'm good to go to vote.
Okay, great. And so Julie, if you don't mind roll calling the vote on that.
Bill,
Yes.
Morel,
Yes.
Gaines.
Yes. All right, thank you, Julie. So at this point, I think we can go in order of the agenda. There are two other things that involve votes. So Mick will be trying to execute all the vote related things as quickly as possible. And Charlie, can you just confirm, without a quorum, we can still hold the rest of the meeting? We just have to execute all votes before Mick leaves?
I mean, yes, we can go through the rest of it. It's not formally a meeting after he leaves. But there's nothing to stop us from discussing anything. There's only going to be 2 board members present, but that's legit. And we can't vote on anything.
Okay, so I mean, I'm open to suggestions here. It's basically monthly reports. I
So
think
my suggestion would be we go through the stuff that requires voting. And we then adjourn the meeting, but we note as we adjourn it that we're going to have the reports given and recorded, and it'll all be available on the YouTube channel or whatever we use. And anybody who's on will be able to hear all the reports. And I think that'll be fine.
Okay.
There's no requirement that we have a monthly report from Brian, except that we want a monthly report from Brian.
well, I think also in respect to the public, if anyone is watching this live or plans to watch it recorded, as well as to the people who prepared things in time for this meeting, I'm fine with staying on. And Matt Mitchell, if you're able to stay
Oh, no,
on.
I totally agree with you.
Okay.
We should stay on and do what we usually do,
Okay,
but it won't actually be at the formal meeting, but it'll be at the same time. It'll be on the YouTube channel. It'll be all there. Anybody who is on can listen.
okay. Charlie, for Julie's sake, since she's the minute taker, when the formal meeting ends, do her minutes end at that point?
The meeting minutes end, but
Okay.
we can ask her to take minutes of what was discussed after that.
Okay, great. So her minutes will just include that the public portion of the meeting, you know, that's obvious.
That we no longer had a quorum, so we concluded the meeting. And then we went through the rest of the information that typically is presented, and we'll have
Okay,
minutes
great.
of that.
And I'm pretty sure Jerry's report has a recommended motion in it. Is that correct, Jerry? So your report would need a vote as well? Yes. Okay. So we'll just make sure we get to Jerry.
We can advance that single item out of my report and just
Oh,
go
okay.
straight to that.
Okay. Yeah, that's great because that saves some time too. I'm just trying to get Mick out of here since he needs to. All right. So going back to the order of the agenda as it stands would be the normal bills. And so I will turn it over to Brian for those.
Okay, I'll go through the unusuals. Just so you know, there's several refunds that are on here. We got snowed out of school on Wednesday, February 2nd. So the half-day District 65 workshop was canceled. So as we go down, Chicago Tribune Media Group, we put the audit, we listed the audit that is available. As we further go down, you'll see Amanda DePalma is a refund. Melanie Gerlulis is a refund. Home Depot bill, we put lights, LED lights in Reba Park. So that's exactly what that bill is. Illinois Public Risk Fund, we'll probably get into that a little later, but that's a reissued check. trying to read my own writing. Mrs. Lima is a refund. Dangling Meng is a refund. Erica Page Muhammad refund. Nick and Ernie's, we had to repair a tire rod on the F-250, which is our plow truck. Julie Novak refund. Tracy Oslamimbo is a refund. And then also Tracy has a consulting outreach fee on the bills for $2,500. Quill was toners. Russo Power Equipment was skid assault and snow blower repair. Natalie Salih is parking fees from the conference. It's a reimbursement. Sarah Sarin Ciaswat is the brochures. Megan Shea, refund. Catherine Scribe is a refund. Anya Tanavudi is a refund also. So that's it in a nutshell.
Thanks, Brian. Anybody have any questions, issues? I just wanted to note a potential misspelling on the bills. For ComEd, electric at 1W Cali. What does that mean?
I'm sorry, what's that?
Under the ComEd charges, there's
That
one.
should be Callan. That should be Callan.
Okay, and is it
Is that-
1W? Is that correct?
Yeah.
1W Callan.
Now that, I don't know what the address is, but that's the light at the Kaylee Tot Lot on the alley. So I'll have to double check the bill for you, but that's what that is.
Okay, I just hadn't seen that before, and I assumed that
Yeah.
1W.
Probably a misprint.
Yeah, I assumed that Callan was a misspelling, and then I didn't know about the 1W. And then there was one other misspelling. I'm trying to remember what it was from when I looked earlier. Oh, well, it's just in two different places. You know, it's on the back of page 2 and on the front of page 2. And sorry, give me 1 second. There's, oh, okay, under RA 12, vehicle maintenance and repair, it says REAPIR instead of repair. It's not a big deal, but I happened to catch it.
We'll take that.
Okay, anybody else have any issues or comments before we approve? Okay, so we can have you roll call that vote, please, Julie.
We need a motion, I think.
Mhm.
I'm sorry. I thought I was trying to make motions before I had Brian talk about them, but I forgot to do that this time. So do you want to move, Matt?
Sure. Mitchell moves to approve the bills for February 2022 in the amount of $34,172.92.
Morel seconds.
Thanks, Mick. And now Julie, if you don't mind roll calling the vote.
Yep, Mitchell,
Yes.
Al. Sorry, you're muted again.
Yes.
James, sorry, I didn't hear you.
Okay. Sorry. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Moving on with our vote-based options is petty cash. And I will entertain a motion to approve petty cash, and we'll turn it over to Brian after that.
Mitchell moves to approve payment of the petty cash in the amount of $614 for February 2022.
And is there a second? I will second, Gaines. Okay, great. And if Brian, if you want to tell us about these.
Amazon.com brochure holder and a lock. Apple Incorporated iPad memory, sorry. Dengio's, we did our staff holiday lunch because it was delayed due to COVID-19. We didn't do it during the holidays. We did it about 2 weeks ago. E-file tax forms, 1099s for Treasurer Gibbs. Facebook was ads. Jewel Osco was stamps while the stamp machine was down. MailChimp, emails over 2,000. Sam's Club, paper products for the buildings. Squarespace Incorporated website hosting space. That's it.
Thank you, Brian. sorry to seem like such a robot, but there's a typo on here too. RA 23. Annual, it just has an extra U in there. Annual holiday lunch. But I have no other questions or comments. Anybody else? Alrighty, I think we can move. Have Julie roll call the vote for us.
Yes.
Morrell,
Yes.
and Gaines.
Yes. All right, moving right along. We will, do I need to motion to bring Jerry's item out of his report and vote on it, or? Charlie,
Yeah, I think we just need a motion on the issue.
okay. I will make the motion recommended by Jerry Gibbs as written. Do you want, I don't think we usually read that whole blurb, right? Do you want me to?
I didn't write it fully out as a motion, but if you kind of just go to the last sentence, just move to direct the treasurer to transfer 25,000 from the recreation fund to the capital projects fund for the purpose of funding the acquisition of a multi-use maintenance vehicle.
Okay, great. And Julie, if you don't mind putting the wording from the bottom of his first page of his report in as the way the motion is worded. Is there a second?
Mitchell second.
Second.
Okay, Mitchell got there first. Any questions,
speeding.
Jerry, or do you want to take a moment, Jerry, to explain that at all, or?
I'll just quickly mention, it's always kind of a two-step process here. In the budget process, we developed the budget with the intent to make this transfer. Now that we've passed the budget, we actually need to do the transfer. And that's what this motion tonight is doing, is setting aside that money for the vehicle.
Okay, great. It's nice to have a little explanation before we actually vote on that. Any questions from anybody? Okay, we can vote on that then, please, Julie.
Mitchell,
Yes.
Morrell,
Yes.
and Gaines.
Yes. All right. In terms of items that need to be voted on, I think we'll move item B from new business up the agenda. So I'm motioning such. And that's update on contract with Logan Consulting Services, LLC. Is there a second for the motion to move that up the agenda?
Mitchell second.
Okay, great. And Julie, if you would roll call the vote on moving that up.
Mitchell,
Yes.
Morrell,
Yes.
Gaines.
Yes. Okay, so Mitchell, do you want to speak on this, or do you want me to?
Sure. Again, we left the last meeting. I was gonna reach out to Logan Consulting on behalf of the board. It's been a long time. We still have not come to terms on a contract. Personally, I would move to direct the executive director and Charles, the attorney, to no longer move forward with Logan Consulting.
Okay, so that was a motion, correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
we need a second.
Okay, I will second. Gain seconds.
And so now, if you want to discuss, you can, or you can go to vote if nobody wants to discuss.
I guess I just want to echo what Matt said already, and it's unfortunate that we're not moving forward, but at a certain point, it's just a time issue, and it's also a cost issue because contract negotiations entail legal cost to us as a district, and we've just kind of reached the point where it doesn't seem that that contract is going to be resolvable. I don't know the right terminology to use, but we're going to go in a different direction. So yeah, that's all I have to say on the issue. Mick, did you want to chime in with anything?
Just like to thank him for his time and wish him the best moving forward.
Great.
I would echo that. I'm sorry it didn't work out. Keep him in mind for next time.
Great. So we can, we had the motion in the second, correct? So we can let Julie roll call the vote on, I can't remember how you worded it, but you know, however the motion is worded, that's what we're voting on.
Right, to direct the executive director not to move forward with the contract with Logan Consulting.
Yes, and Matt, I'm sorry, did you include that, I mean, so Brian will follow up with Dr. Logan, or are you going to, or?
So we last decided that I would be the primary point of contact, so I will.
Okay, great.
But
So,
our,
you know,
our last motion as a board was to have Brian enter into contract term negotiation, and so we're formally asking him to stop that.
correct, yes. And that is part of the process to allow the board, the Ready Committee, et cetera, to also take the necessary steps to eventually move forward with a different consultant in that realm. So, so yeah, Julie, if you would roll call the vote, that'd be great.
Sorry, Mitchell, I didn't hear you.
Yes.
Morale,
Yes.
Did you say Gaines? I didn't hear
I
you.
did. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Am I quiet again?
Yeah, there's like maybe a mic issue or something. I'm sorry. Yes, Gaines.
Thank
is
you.
yes.
Okay.
Thanks, Julie. So in terms of new business item C, I'm not necessarily motioning that we move that up just yet. It does say for action. The reason I put that there is because I wanted us as a board to have the potential to vote on what the next steps are for the Ready Committee. If that is in fact how we're moving forward with picking the next consultant. But given that we only have 3 out of 5 board members here tonight, I'm gonna table that as opposed to pushing it up the agenda. Because I think that's a bigger discussion that the board needs to have as a whole of how we're going about this consultant process the next time around. So, so in terms of, help me out here, in terms of items that we need Mick to vote on, I think we covered it.
Except for Brian Rosinski's annual review.
Oh, correct, correct.
So we can table that or go into executive session and do it now.
Brian, I feel like last year or maybe the year before, we just tabled it and tabled it and tabled it. How do you feel
Table it.
about table? It's okay.
It's okay to table it, yeah. Mick's on vacation, it's okay.
Okay.
He needs to go.
Okay.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, Brian. Okay, so then Mick, you are free to go because we have executed all the votes we needed to. And thank you for tuning in and helping
Do
us.
you
get
need
that done.
Mick part of the motion to adjourn? You have, because we're coming
That's
out of the
true.
regular meeting.
Yeah, I think we do need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
That's true. We always do. This is Gaines, and I'll move that we adjourn the public meeting at 7:58.
Well,
Mitchell,
we
second.
now second.
Mitchell seconds.
Charlie, do I need
roll
to do I need to specify it's because we don't have a quorum in my motion?
No.
Okay.
We have minutes. It's all going to be there. Just
Okay.
do the roll call and we're done.
Okay. Julie, you can do the roll call, please.
Mitchell,
Yes.
Morale,
Yes.
Gaines.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Have fun, Mick.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank
Mick.
Thank you all. Yeah, thank you all for understanding. I appreciate it. I'm sorry about this, but yeah, gotta family first, right?
Yeah. Thanks for making this work.
Have a
Of
great
course.
time.
Family first for sure.
Thank you very much. You all take care.
All right. Good night.
So now the meeting is over, but we can still continue with everything else on the agenda. There's 2 board members present, which is allowed under the Open Meetings Act. And the public, whoever's here can listen in, and whoever wants to listen in the future can listen as well. And we're going to keep minutes of what's discussed, so we'll have a record of that as well.
Great.
Just to keep it on the same format I always do, just with the sentence in the middle that the public meeting is adjourned?
Yes, I think so. Whatever you think looks good.
I'll keep the
I think
format
that's
the
fine,
same.
just so that it's
Just
just
exactly
so
the
it's
same.
clear to anyone reading it what happened, and then perhaps Julie, instead of what time we adjourn, it's sort of just what time, because we don't adjourn again. I guess we're just gonna say goodnight at a certain point and end the meeting or end the discussion, the informal meeting.
Sure.
Okay, so we kind of chopped up the agenda quite a bit here. I'm gonna go back and just make sure that we kind of go in order from now on. So that would be the monthly report from Brian Brzezinski first, please.
Okay, in the past month, we've been dealing with opening winter programs, removing snow and keeping the ice rink open. Class programs will be updated by Natalie Salih. The maintenance crew has been extremely busy with the above mentioned snow removal, salting sidewalks, and the ice rink. We will be ordering another skid of salt, which we did. You just saw that in the bills. Reba Park needed its lights changed. Marcos Cruz put in LEDs, so we'll be set there for a long time. We also received the Reba Park Play Circuit equipment. Hallelujah, praise the Lord. How about that? And have stored it in the maintenance garage. We are hoping for an early May installation. The timing of the installation will depend on how soft the ground is. We want to avoid tearing up the park with heavy equipment if the ground is too soft. But needless to say, it will happen this spring. Elks Park is experiencing heavily iced sidewalks due to moisture underneath the latest snowfall. The crew removed the ice, the water flows back onto the sidewalk and freezes. It is a daily chore, but they will continue to battle it. The brochure is out, and the first day of summer camp lottery applications and waitlist sign up is 2/28/22. You can see the brochure for more details and important dates. It is our hope the summer camp programs return to as close to normal as possible. This will all depend on the latest COVID-19 status. We will be prepared either way. Natalie Salih attended the IAPD annual conference in the last week of January. She attended many quality workshops on a variety of topics. One of the constant themes at the conference was that newly elected commissioners take the commissioners boot camp workshop. If anybody hasn't taken it, newly elected or not, they should. It's an introduction to Park District law and procedures. They emphasize it's the best introduction to your duties as a commissioner. That's it for me.
Thank you, Brian. Anybody have any questions? I say anybody. It's just you and me, Matt. Well, if we have any questions, we can ask them. No. All right. Thank you so much, Brian. I have to sadly say I have not gotten over to the rink yet, but I'm not much of a skater. I still meant to try it out. I haven't yet. So I will try to get over there. I'm so happy to hear about the LED lights. I can't believe how long they last for. I mean, I can't say they last as long as the package claims at the store because I haven't been able to test it for that long. You know, they claim it's like a 13 years or whatever. So that's definitely the right way to go. And I would encourage us to replace any light bulb we possibly can with LEDs moving forward.
Exactly, it's exactly what we're doing.
Great. All right. Moving along then to Jerry's report.
I don't have a lot, honestly. I'll just quickly mention that we got the 1099s produced, sent to the recipients and filed with the IRS. It's an annual thing we have to do by January 31st. The other notable item is a bit serious. We this week discovered that one of the vendors in the packet, kind of in the list of vendors where we thought we had a bunch of lost checks in the mail, we now wonder if they weren't in fact stolen checks in the mail. And one of those checks has been altered and successfully negotiated. The money didn't get to the vendor, it got to the party that altered the payee information on the check. The check was for $9,000, $9,095. So it's a pretty big amount. It's why you saw on the bills tonight another payment to IPRF in that same amount. We'll be out the money for a period of time. We're working with the Chase fraud team to recover the monies. Where we stand in the process right now is we're waiting for them to send us some forms we should have within the week. We have to fill out the forms, send it back to them. They have to approach the bank that presented the check. Ultimately, it's my understanding the loss will land on that bank or their depositor and will be made whole. That's just the way this type of an alteration lands on the party that deposited it. A fraud would land on us. So I think we'll ultimately come out okay, but we'll out of pocket perhaps be without the money for a period of up to 90 days while the investigation process proceeds. One of the open questions is, and Charles, maybe you have an opinion on this, is Chase said we can, or they don't require it, but IPRF was advising us that we should file a report with the Evanston Police Department. I'm also wondering if we shouldn't file some type of a report with the postmaster in Evanston. We don't know where the checks disappeared, where the envelope, it's all stuff that was put in the mail and mailed. So we assume it was stolen in the mail or some point after delivery to the other end.
So we don't have to file a police report or anything of that nature. We still have the right to recover because they paid on a fraudulent endorsement to the wrong payee. So the bank's breached its contract. The bank that deposited it breached its contract. The bank that got the money from Chase breached its contract, and Chase has breached its contract with us. So we should be fine because one of them will be solvent. I know they're going to put you through an annoying 90 days to get the money to you. They should give it to us right away because they don't have any right to it. But you know what? It's going to take 90 days. Make the police report. It can't hurt. They're not going to do anything with it, is my guess. The other thing we should consider is, are there large checks out there that were in that batch beyond the 9,000? Do we want to put a stop payment on them at some cost to us, but it would stop us from being out the money for 90 days?
All the other checks were identified because they weren't successfully negotiated. We last month reissued new checks and put stop payments on the originals. So we're covered on all of those. Okay. This one, because the check was cashed and the vendor took so long to tell us that we were delinquent from their perspective in paying the bill, but from our perspective, we were okay because the check had cleared. Nobody, that didn't trigger anybody to pull the check up and study it after the fact and discover that the payee had been changed. So that's why this one got through.
Yeah. So the larger
because
checks,
they were a reissue, we put a stop payment on as a matter of course on the reissues.
The larger checks, we might want to make an effort just to look at the canceled check to make sure there's nothing obvious about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would make the police report, but I don't think it'll matter to us.
Okay. The rest of my report is just the usual monthly financial stuff. Just summarizing it really fast. We're in budget. We're kind of in a normal position where we'd be this time of year. If there's any area of concern, it's just that our revenue is coming in under budget at this point. But in a way, that's kind of typical this time of year too. I would expect that's going to catch up quite a bit once we start to do the summer camp registrations and once we start to receive the tax revenues for the first installment of the 2021 tax bills. And beyond that, I'm done.
Jerry, I have a question for you about the check situation. I was going over this with Brian, and just in terms of making sure we do every single possible thing to prevent this in the future, which of course is not entirely within our abilities. But something that came to mind is that after our checks that we issue are cashed, I assume, just like any personal banking, we're able to go in and view the check image once it's been cashed. or
Yes.
deposited or whatever. And I don't think very many people even use checks, period, these days. But even those who do, I don't think, people are in the habit of checking every single check image after the fact. But that can be how we might have alerted ourselves or might alert ourselves in the future to this before we find out, that somebody we owed money to says, why haven't we gotten your check yet? I don't know if legally that helps protect us in any case that might somehow mean that we would be held liable, because I don't know that expediency of catching it makes any difference. So I'm just wondering what you think about that, developing a practice that we check all check images, view all check images is what I mean to say.
In all cases, if it's a matter of the payee being altered, it would not be our liability. It would be from what I read of the federal Reg CC of the federal government, it's always going to fall back on the bank that accepted the check for deposit, because they should be in the best position to determine that they're working with an altered check. And this was pretty evident once you looked at it, that it was an altered check. Different if it was a forged signature on our side, somebody making a check out, made to look like we had issued it, then the liability would fall on us. In talking with Chase, one of the things they were suggesting is they have a service called Positive Pay, where we would upload a file to them of all checks that we issue. And then as checks are presented for payment, they match it against the file we give them. And if a check comes in that's not on that positive affirmation file, they would dishonor it and not accept it. They started with that in discussion with me, and I asked them to explain, well, then how in this case would that have helped us? Because we would have had a check for $9,095 on our file, and they would have received a check for $9,095. They would have paid it because everything matched up. And they said, oh, you're right. It won't detect those types of situations where we would have the liability. So I think we're okay. I think this is just kind of one of those really rare, random types of situations. From my experience working in the bank, I mean, there was a time when I started working in banking where banks checked, all checks above a certain dollar amount, and realized the volumes that we deal with are in the literally tens of thousands a day at an individual bank. And a lot of staff and a lot of time and effort was spent to do it. And just the reality was you didn't catch enough fraud to make it worth the expense of what you were doing. Over time, banks kind of migrated to a position that they just randomly sample a certain percentage of the checks above a certain dollar threshold. It cut their cost of trying to detect the fraud, but it didn't really change the frequency with which they were catching these kind of things. It's just, it really is the teller who accepts the deposit and processes it as a burden on them to look at those checks and see if they look visibly altered. So we could do it. I'm not saying no, we don't have a way to do it. We could do it, but I just don't know that it's worth our time, energy, or effort to do it. And the liability risk to us is.
So we do have an obligation, though, if there's something wrong with the check, if it's forged, if it was an unauthorized instrument, and we don't say anything about it after getting a bank statement, I think it's 30 days.
Exactly. And in the case of the forgery, because we do reconcile the bank statement, that's part of what the duties are I do each month, we're going to see it pop up on the outstandings report. And we would pretty quickly catch right there. We'd have what we call the cleared, not approved. And
my guess also, this $9,000 check was not initially deposited in a bank. Somebody went to a currency exchange.
Well, interestingly, that's what you would think. In reality, the endorsement on it is highly unusual in that there are no bank endorsements, no currency exchange endorsements, no other party endorsements on it other than the handwritten endorsement of the fraudulent name that was put on the check.
That is unusual.
So even the Chase fraud team was like, this is very weird.
That's an inside job.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's very, we used to have this type of fraud happen at the bank in our lockbox department, which is where this check went to. The only thing that's inconsistent with it being an inside job in a lockbox department is the fact that we had a number of checks. We had a dozen or so checks disappear in alphabetical order, from the letter I through the letter, I don't remember exactly, P or whatever. Everybody we paid in a certain sequence. It's almost like somebody grabbed the bundle of checks as they were found in the mailbox and then went through them and then said, okay, well, this is $20 not worth their time. This one's $100 not worth their time. Here's a $4,000 check. Let's try to fraudulently negotiate it. Here's the $10,000 check. Let's try to fraudulently negotiate it. The way these lockbox type of frauds typically work when it's an inside job is you've got a dishonest employee at the bank who is stealing the check. They're not the one trying to negotiate it. They're being paid by someone else a sum of money. Take a $10,000 check. Maybe they make $100 or $200 for stealing the check. It's then fenced to another party who sells it to another party for a few $100s. It's a game of numbers. If they manage to put through 20 checks and they get caught on 19 of them, they just can't cash them. Okay, fine. But if they can get that one $10,000 check through, so what if they spent, $500-600 paying some people off to slide it through? They came out ahead. So that would be the lockbox inside job type approach to the fraud. The fact that it's a bundle of mail makes it sound more like it's somebody either stole it from the P.O. box, wherever the drop box was the mail was dropped into, or at the post office. The problem with the post office theory is by the time it reaches there, these things aren't in order and next to each other anymore. So
Yeah.
it's kind of weird. So honestly, all the indicators are, to my mind, somebody stole a bundle of mail out of a mailbox. If we drop it off at a box on the corner by the Seward office, somebody somehow got that mail.
Well, plus we already know that's a known issue, that mailboxes are being hit in
And
that
we
way.
should stop dropping mail in those boxes and take it inside.
Right, and it sounds like that's already the practice. I don't know or the change to the practice. I don't know if that's been said, but Brian did tell me that we'll take the mail with checks to the post office instead of putting it in a box. So that's something we can do.
Yep.
Okay, well, yeah, I mean, thank you, Jerry, for reporting on this. It's interesting, and it's, one more thing for our staff to have to deal with in various ways. But not being liable for the $9,000 is a huge difference.
That was the initial panic, and kind of once we sorted through that, it was easier to calm down and say, okay, now it's just a matter of going through the process to document what happened and recover the money.
Right. Well, and I can't not say that, if it isn't already obvious, any bills we can pay digitally, we probably should be. I imagine that we can't do that all the time. And I also don't know if you feel confident that paying digitally in the cases where we're able to is decidedly safer, because there are digital theft and fraud and all kinds of things like that too. But at least usually those payment methods allow you to get almost immediate, if not immediate, confirmation that your payment went to the recipient it was supposed to go to. So, just a note to the people in the office here at Ridgeville that anything we can pay digitally literally blocks a check from being stolen, but it maybe isn't a perfect method either.
One of the things I know, the state treasurer's office, the same group that encourages us to use the Illinois funds, they also offer another service for electronic. I initially understood it to be the electronic payment of funds, and I've always kind of just ignored that marketing material from them because we aren't big enough and don't have interest in that. But when this happened, I pulled out that stuff and studied the program a lot more. And what I actually found was, unfortunately, it's not a program for us paying vendors. It's a program for us receiving money from other entities where they offer a program that we get the benefit of the state's negotiating heft with it. So for example, our camp fees that we take credit card payments for through our website, it's a program for doing stuff like that. Point was I immediately started thinking, what are our options and alternatives to pay some of this stuff electronically? And the one idea that came to mind flowed the wrong direction. So that's not an option. It's got to come from the vendors, that they've got to provide us a way to digitally pay them.
Okay. Well, again, thank you for digging into that and reporting on it. And is that the end, Jerry, for you?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, moving on then to Natalie's monthly report.
Hi.
Hi.
Okay. I did indeed attend the 2022 Soaring to New Heights IAPD IPRA conference. I listed here all of the fantastic workshops that I attended. I'd be happy to discuss any of these workshops with you individually. I learned quite a bit. It was a busy 3 days of in-person conferencing. It was nice to be in person again this year. We had to do it online last year, so it was nice to get back down to the Hyatt and see all the Parks and Rec folks from all over the state. Some of my biggest takeaways from the conference were the importance of consistent branding, the importance of the idea to seek to understand before seeking to be understood. I thought that was a really cool way of thinking about crucial conversations, and the value of our IAPD and IPRA resources. For example, as Brian had mentioned, IAPD offers a boot camp for commissioners. I think you both have attended that. The lawyer who did the presentation on, it was a workshop I went to that was for developing healthy relationships between boards and executive directors. He really stressed the importance of the IAPD boot camp for commissioners, because they do cover a lot more than just OMA laws. It covers a lot of the differences between municipalities and park districts, and the roles of commissioners on park district boards. So if anybody hasn't taken that, or if they want to take it again, I'm happy to register you. Something else I learned is that IPRA, which I joined last year for the first time, offers what they call professional development school. It's a 2-year program, and then you have the option of returning beyond that for continued education, hours, and networking opportunities. I'm very, very interested in being a part of and taking part in this coming year. So I'll discuss that more with you as we start looking at the budget for next year. I've been talking to Brian about it quite a bit as well. On to summer camp lottery and waitlist. It's so bizarre that I'm thinking about summer, but it's so great. Warms me up a little bit in the snow. So the summer camp lottery and waitlist applications will open online and in the office on February 28th. Similar to how we ran camp last year, we'll hold a lottery to prioritize families in our district with essential workers in the home and who are eligible for the free and reduced lunch program. This year, I'm also offering a wait list for families who do not meet 2 of those 3 criteria for the lottery. So both of those registration forms will open online. I'm not taking any money at that point. I'm not receiving any revenue. It's purely just signing up for lottery and for wait list. Once I've accommodated all the lottery families and gotten them into camp, then I'll move directly to the wait list and start there. Feeling confident that if COVID numbers continue heading in the right direction, we will have closer to normal registration numbers this summer. We'll see how it goes, but I feel pretty confident that we'll at least be able to accommodate more families than we did the previous summer. A couple other fun things that are happening this summer is a pre-K and kindergarten story dance workshop with Laura Downey. That's going to take place at Leiter Park. We're bringing back the CIT program, and we've got tons of cool partner mini camps, and registration for all of these will open on March 7th. Outreach update. I'm happy to read you what I wrote here. I also got a request from Debbie Braun last night to write a supplemental report on my work with Tracy. She had a list of questions and I wrote a pretty lengthy dissertation on that. I don't know if you want me to read that today or if I should save it for next month when hopefully Debbie's feeling better and be here. Do you guys have an opinion on that? Matt and Martha?
I would save it.
Yeah, I'm fine with either way. I'm anxious to hear what you said, but I have it in writing, so I don't think there's any need to do that tonight. Especially since it was a certain commissioner that asked you to expand on that, who is not here. So yeah, we can. Thank you. I mean, I appreciate what you put in writing, and I received it at a time today when I couldn't, look into it with great detail, but I will, and I think it's great to have. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, happy to do it. I'm sorry, I would have had it to you sooner, but I got the request last night and it took me a long time to write this morning. So, but
Thank
just
you
a
for
couple quick updates on Tracy. So Tracy and I have been continue working on the social media calendar. I'm really proud of the social media plan that I made for February. I don't know if I mentioned this last month, but I did discover in Facebook Suite or Meta Suite now, I guess, I can pre-schedule the whole month worth of posts that I'm going to make to Facebook and Instagram. So we're focusing on 5 different topics for those posts: newsletter, registration, awareness, engagement, and community. So those posts have all been planned, and I'm in the process of wrapping up creating all those posts for the month of February. A lot of those posts obviously feature Black History Month themes and things that folks can do in the community to celebrate, and some other things that local organizations are doing as well. Tracy also scheduled a meeting between myself and her and Jeremy McRae, who's the city's the city's youth and young adult outreach supervisor. He's actually responsible for organizing the MISEP job fair, which I go to every year. So that was really cool to meet him and learn about some of the work that he does with youth in the city at both District 65 and the high school, really kind of connecting youth of color with internships and employment opportunities around the city. Told him about our CIT program and our summer staffing, our Youth Grow Team project. So I think there's some opportunities to work even closer with him throughout the year. And then next week, I have a meeting with Alderman Burns from the 5th Ward. I'm really looking forward to meeting him. Tracy and I both, have prioritized scheduling meetings with aldermen that represent wards within our district, but unfortunately we have not been able to get in touch with those alder people just yet. So as soon as they respond and when they have a free moment, I look forward to meeting Devon Reed and the other commissioners, the commissioners from the 2nd and the 4th Ward. So that's happening with Alderman Burns next Tuesday. And that's it. I'll save the rest of my thesis for next month.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Hey, Natalie, I thought
yes,
I would just mention real quick, I posted in the chat 2 links. I came across articles earlier this week where the city of Evanston camp registration and garden registrations are coming up. And I just thought you'd find it interesting to compare how our plans dovetail with theirs.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Yep.
That's great, Jerry. Thank you.
I bet their garden rentals are pricier than ours.
Well, and
You get a bargain for those Elks plots, I got to tell you.
yeah, I'm pretty sure I've never tried to rent myself, but I'm pretty sure I've heard that the city maintains a pretty long wait list for their plots as well. So as I've said before, I just wish that Ridgeville, Evanston, I don't care who does it, but getting more of those plots available would be awesome. If wait lists have been persisting year after year, then there's a desire for them.
Yeah, we have a pretty hefty one. Catherine Egan had emailed me to ask if the youth grow team could take a couple more plots, and I was like, no, I'm sorry. I wish I could give them to you. It's great that they grow food for the food pantry, but I have a list a mile long. So yeah, they're definitely a hot commodity in the summer.
Yeah, and I mean, I wish I could say that an expansion over at the Elks plots would work, but obviously you have to have a certain amount of sun and you have to have good access, and you can't be taking away land that is needed and used for other things. So, it probably could be done if we found the right spots. Yeah. So great. And in terms of your meeting you have coming up, I certainly don't mean to invite myself along or invite anyone else, but I'm just curious, that's the kind of thing that people might want to have access to. So I'm not saying that you need to give access, but I'm just kind of curious if you've thought about that, if you've thought about either recording them so people can watch later, or opening it up to the public. Obviously with COVID, it's not like, come on in, whoever wants to. We're not there yet.
Yeah.
But or just notes on everything you guys discuss, I think would be awesome. I mean, I for one would look forward to it.
I'll definitely take notes. I think I'm really grateful to her for setting these up for me. They're kind of meant to be informal introductions. I don't know a lot of these city council members. I had a great working relationship with Alderman Fleming. I'm sorry to see her go, but I'm also looking forward to meeting whoever the new alderperson is that is appointed to that position. But and I knew Alderman Rainey, of course, but beyond that, I haven't met a lot of the city council people. So they're kind of meant to be informal, and also, Tracy and I've talked a lot about just kind of educating people on Ridgeville. Like that seems to be kind of an overlaying theme, is that a lot of folks don't know what Ridgeville is and like what kind of resources we can offer and what kind of partnerships are possible. So it's an opportunity for me to hear from them, like what they're working on and prioritizing in their own wards, and to see how the park district can help facilitate their work. But I will definitely take notes. I think if there's future things that we can do to work together, and it seems appropriate to bring people into that conversation, I would love to have some commissioners present.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Matt, you have any questions or anything for Natalie?
I don't.
Thank you for all of that detail, Natalie. I'm actually interested in following up with you about some of those workshops you did, so I'll let you know which ones.
They were great.
More info on. Yeah,
they were good ones.
Cool. Thanks for going too. I really appreciate that you participate in that and take that information in on behalf of the district. That's awesome.
Yep.
All right. Moving on with our agenda unofficially here. We do have on the agenda, as always, the Racial Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee update. And I think JC is here. Yes, hello. So feel free to chime in with anything relevant right now.
Hi there. Well, the first thing I would like to bring to everyone's attention is the Park District has not yet officially adopted Juneteenth as a holiday. That's something that the committee recommends you all do. I know there's some details that go along with that. We already discussed a little bit in our meeting over whether that means if the office is closed, if it falls on a weekday, and all those sorts of things. So clearly all that will have to be ironed out, but the committee recommends that the board take whatever actions it needs to acknowledge that officially as a holiday, since that hasn't been done yet. Does anybody have any questions or comments about that before I move into my next item?
I would just say that any voting that we would take, voting action that we would take as a board, in order to incorporate that, into being officially celebrated in whatever way that ends up meaning for us. Obviously, we can't do that right now, for one. For two, if we get to a point in a future meeting where that's the goal, we'll have to say for action within that Ready Committee update. So I would say we should loosely plan to go over that next month. if that's good with you, this can serve as notice to Natalie to add it as such. Is that something you want to do, JC?
Yes, please.
Okay, great. And then the only other thing that I would recommend with that, although I'm not sure we can necessarily handle this if we are sort of suspending Ready Committee meetings for the foreseeable future. Nonetheless, it would be ideal that we have as many details as possible to present to the board about what the federal holiday status means, how that manifests, what we went over in our meeting about what day it falls on and how that might mean it's a holiday if it's a weekday, but if it's a weekend day, it wouldn't be that kind of thing. Because we talked extensively about how some holidays are always, like Thanksgiving's always a Thursday, but then some holidays are, yeah, Natalie.
I think I told JC, but I don't think I told you. I was wrong what I said, and I knew it. I knew I needed to talk to Brian about that first. If the holiday does fall on a weekend, then we do get the following. So if it falls on a Saturday, we take off Friday. If it falls on a Sunday, we take off Monday.
Okay, you know what?
I spoke incorrectly at the Ready meeting.
I'm so glad that you remembered to update us, and I'm so glad that that is the case, because that was sticking with me as a point of confusion. Like, wait, it's just helter skelter if you get it off or not, because usually when you're negotiating which holidays are paid, it's not going to vary wildly from year to year based on what day of the week it falls on. So that's good to know, and that's the case I think with all the major federal holidays too. Is it's just kind of whichever one's right before or right after. So good. Thank you for that.
Brian was like, you do not come to work the day after the Monday or the Friday before.
And JC, I was just thinking that like it's not so much for me individually, it's more that the board as a whole, we know that the board often wants to have as much detail as possible, wants to know exactly what's the explanation and details of anything that's being proposed to them. So given that there's only two of us here, we're not going to vote on anything but preparing for the next one. And even if it just gets pulled from what we've already discussed in our previous Ready meeting, in case we are not meeting again before the next board meeting. So that, I could foresee that somebody would say, well, okay, if we approve that, what does it mean? What does it look like? How do we do it? So
absolutely
being able to answer those kinds of questions. But yeah, I think you had more to go as well, right?
Yes. Yes, I do. So, take into consideration, the board voting not to continue with Dr. Logan today. I just really ask of the board, and I know not the whole board is here, but I really hope that the other board members are going to watch this whole meeting and get all this information. I'm really hoping that as we move forward as a committee and a board, that we get some really clear directives that the committee can work on, and that the board follow through with their actions. To be totally honest, I'm feeling really frustrated that the committee has been together for this long and we haven't actually gotten any work done. And if that's going to continue to be the case, I am no longer willing to be on the committee. When I accepted this position on the committee and to be the chair, I was told I was going to have an equity consultant that was going to guide me through this process. And I don't have that. And I'm not willing to continue being in the situation that I'm doing something that I'm not trained or prepared to do. And I was told I was going to get that training and that preparation. So I want you all to keep that into consideration moving forward. I'm not speaking on behalf of the whole committee when I say that. I'm speaking on behalf of just myself. But I'm really not seeing actions from the board that are backing up this equity work. And furthermore, I'm seeing actions from the board, such as really scrutinizing Tracy's work, which is getting to a point, in my opinion, that I think is inappropriate, that it's really not reflecting what I see as a board moving towards equity. And if I don't see that coming from the board, I'm not willing to continue working with you all. I appreciate the work that you all have done so far, but I need to see some more boots on the ground if I'm going to stick this out.
Thank you so much for sharing that, JC. Equity work is super important, and it's also not always easy to execute for all kinds of reasons, and lack of support from the organization is absolutely one of those reasons that exists not just here, but potentially everywhere. And being willing to call it out is very important. So thank you for doing that. I also just want to add, because I'm on the committee as well, that we've had an unusual and unpredictable chain of events with the pandemic, with losing Dr. Effiam, with struggling to execute a contract with Dr. Logan. So everything you have said, I wholeheartedly agree with and am concerned about. I also want to say that I think it's not our only issue right now. Our another issue is that the committee is the only committee that's ever existed at Ridgeville. Nobody knew how to form it, the basis for any justification to form it this way, and these are the rules, this is how it should conduct itself, etc. So if mistakes are being made, I think it's a case of we're doing the best we can with limited information. Dr. Effiam did start helping us in those official formative ways, but we did not finish that work, and here we are with it unfinished. So if it falls on the board, you're absolutely right, as opposed to the committee itself, to be clear about processes, procedures, what's expected, what's the territory for the Ready Committee to be covering and what isn't and why. Like, that is the board and staff that will hopefully execute that, and it has to come from that place. And so I'm a little worried that the committee is sort of a rudderless ship right now through no fault of their own. And I agree with you that nobody should be spending their time in ways that they wholeheartedly feel are being done for a certain purpose and then feeling like things aren't going the way they're supposed to. There's lack of communication, et cetera, et cetera. So, we're not in a great place for multiple reasons. And I think calling them out is a start to that. And then also taking the necessary steps, procedurally where that applies to fix those problems and to get clear in the ways we're not clear and all of that. So a lack of support and any issues in that realm, definitely an issue. Also organizationally, we need to be, we need some direction. And here we are in this unofficial meeting, but I'm just going to throw this out there that, I've started to discuss with certain people that perhaps a consultant who specializes in helping committees form and the like is in order. Obviously an equity consultant is as well, but what we don't want to do is take any additional steps in directions that the board has issue with, and then people are wasting their time and stuff like that. So just great to kind of start talking about this. And I echo your sentiment that I hope the rest of the board watches this. I just want to throw it out there too, that in the event that they don't, you could always, kind of capture some of the stuff that you said and put it in writing and share it with the board members who aren't here. And that's probably a great idea if you're able to do that. And as I said earlier, I tabled the issue of next steps for the Ready Committee because there weren't enough of us here to have that conversation as it should be had. So I look forward to the board doing what it needs to do to make sure that the Ready Committee is set up with the direction, the support, the everything that they need to move forward. Sorry.
Thank you, Marta. No, I really appreciate that. I mean, you all have, right, this committee, we've been together since this started, right? We haven't really lost anyone off the committee. The committee is compiled of all of the people that have shown interest in being the committee, right? There's not people banging on the door to do this. I'm hoping we can grow the committee. I'm hoping we can have some more diversity in the committee. But you have a group of people who are really willing to do this work. And I really hope that you all take advantage of that.
Thank you, JC. And I want to thank you for all the work that you do.
Thank you.
And the committee. I am hopeful that we can kind of reorganize here and get moving in the right direction. And so thank you for sharing, and I'm hopeful that we can come together and get everybody on the same page.
I hope so too. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Thanks for your report and for your words, JC.
You're very welcome. See you later.
Can I ask a question here, just generally, with regard to Dr. Logan and the check? What is the process from this point?
What do you mean the check? Paying his bill?
The payment check to Dr. Logan that's been authorized. What's the process? Who writes the check? Who signs the check? Who delivers the check? How is it delivered? I mean, typically, I assume, well, used to be typically that was mailed, but.
So I could speak briefly. Oh, Brian, there you are. Why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, so Jerry and I will sign the check. It's going to be a standard Ridgeville Park District check. I'll hand deliver it or whatever we need to be done, but it'll be he needs to fill out a W-9 too, and then the check will be signed, and then we'll pay him probably early next week.
Okay. I sent an email to Brian and Jerry about a notation to put on the back of the check.
Correct, I saw it.
Okay, good.
Yeah, Zhang in the office will actually produce the check out of the QuickBooks system. And then, normally it would be signed by two of the authorized signers on the account. During COVID, I've been stepping in and Brian's been signing. So the two of us will be the signers. Brian, my thought and suggestion would be that since Matt is handling the communications with them, that we have Matt deliver the check to them if you're amenable to that.
I'm happy to do that or have it delivered.
And the other reason I kind of popped in here is I wanted to say, normally we only produce checks when it's either petty cash or we're paying out of the bills report. This is an unusual process where we're stepping outside our normal approval process for paying things. So I didn't want to see us wait any longer. I didn't want to wait till next month's bills report. So I was glad to hear you say, Brian, you're going to cut the check here in the next couple days and get it out. The other reason to be concerned is because we've also got to kind of have half an eye on, we have statutory deadlines by which we have to pay checks or we have to pay penalties.
We also have a due date on the invoice, I noticed, as February 23rd. So, just technically speaking, that's when Logan Consulting views it to be.
Well, he can put that on there all he wants. It's state law that governs, and
okay.
And it's going to override whatever is on his invoice.
Okay.
But
I would say, Matt, my recommendation would be ask Dr. Logan in your communication with him what his preference is. If he would like it hand delivered, if he'd like it mailed, that part could be up to him.
Sure.
I would encourage that we hand deliver it, given the problems we're having with the mail.
Okay.
The other, to Brian's point, if we don't already have a W-9 on file, we have to have that because we'll have to issue a 1099 to them at year end.
Brian and I spoke about that, and I will communicate that.
Okay. Something I forgot to include, and I know I've talked about this before, but it's certainly relevant now that we've approved his bill. I just wanted to make sure that we are in possession of the document that was put together by Dr. Logan in case that it is relevant, and I think it may be, towards future equity work with another consultant. I would imagine that we own any documents that were put together in the context of time that we paid him to work, to hourly work that we've paid for. So I know we already possess the document, so that perhaps is enough, but I just thought it might be worth being explicit that's a document that we own. We didn't reach a contract, so we never really kind of went over how that would go. But I think that would be to our benefit if we had official access to it in any relevant realms moving forward. All right, so where are we? We just ended the Ready Committee update. Moving into old business then. Here we have clarification for hiring contract employees. And Brian, I'll turn it over to you. Unless you feel you want to wait to go over it, or
no, this at this point in time, this has nothing to do with me. This is a Matt Rogers issue, who was going to clarify some terms and words to put in there, and it hasn't been done yet. I think he talked to Natalie and wanted to push this to next month.
Yes, he did. Should I change that on the next agenda to read Rogers instead of
Rosinski? Yes.
Okay, that brings us all the way to call of the commissioners. And I'll turn that over to you, Matt, first, if you have anything you want to share.
My family's been enjoying the ice rink. It really is a great community resource. I've seen Julie and her family out there, and been able to visit with a lot of other Ridgeville neighbors. So thank you.
All right, I am going to take this time to quickly share that unfortunately I am moving out of the district in a number of months. My husband and I unexpectedly found a home that we wanted to buy and executed that purchase as of last Monday. And we're very excited about it. It's the right thing for our family. It's still in Evanston, but it's not in Ridgeville. But the sad news is that I can't be on the board once I'm no longer living within the Ridgeville Park District boundaries. As to the exact date, I'll be stepping down. It just somewhat remains to be seen. I should say the exact date we're moving remains to be seen. I'll be planning a date to step down as soon as possible so that the rest of the board, and I'm just speaking to you, Matt, since nobody else is here, but the rest of the board, I want to have as much time as possible to engage in whatever steps it chooses to do or is obligated to do, or all of the above, in order to fill my seat. And I also just want to put this out there for anyone who is listening or will listen to this in the future, that this is an awesome position to fill as a way to serve the community. And I wish I could continue. And I just encourage anyone who is in any way remotely interested and able, please do it. Please throw your hat in the ring. This is just such a great way to help make decisions, help make sure that Ridgeville stays the awesome place that it is. And I'm very thankful for the opportunity that I've had to do everything I've done in my two both truncated terms. I filled a 4-year vacancy the first time, and I think, what are we at, Matt? We were elected at the same time. Are we 2 years in? We're 3 years in. Okay, so yeah, I'm having to cut my 6-year term short at 3 years, but these 3 years have flown by, and I've been so glad to be here. I really just cherish all of the work that the other commissioners and the staff and even the community does. Jerry, Charlie, everybody, the Ready Committee. So I'm sad to go, but I'll definitely be tuning in and staying involved in any way that I can. And as I said, I'll put it in writing as I need to do with my official resignation date in order for the rest of the board to fill the spot. So that's it.
Sorry to see you go, Martha. It's sad news for the district. Good news for your family.
That's exactly it. You know, few things in life are 100% great. There's some like silver linings to bad things, and there's some sad pieces to good things. So
well, congrats.
Martha, we'll miss you. I know the house you bought. You told me who used to live there, and I know it well. You're going to be in a great neighborhood. Enjoy. We'll see you around, I'm sure.
Thank you. I was there today because RCN came to the house to hook up internet, so that made it feel kind of real to have the internet hooked up and, you know, spend some time in the house. But it needs some work, so we won't be moving immediately, which is why, you know, I will be living in the district for at least another month, maybe 2. My guess is that there's a good chance that March will be my last meeting. Maybe April will be my last meeting. So that's where I'm at right now.
Okay.
Enjoy.
Thank you. All right. Well, we are already decided to table the executive session. We've already adjourned, of course. So I think we're just saying goodnight at this point. And thank you.
Good night, Martha. Good night, everybody. Happy Super Bowl.
Night.
Thank you, guys.
Good night, everyone.
All right.
Go-
Bye, everybody.
Go
Good luck
Rams.
with all your packing and moving, Martha. Big job.
Oh, thank you. But don't remind me of all the packing I have.
Are the animals excited?
You know, Kiki in particular, Natalie, I'm worried about her. I'm worried about her doing the move, but I've already sort of started to think of how cozy I'll make a spot for her so that she feels like she likes her new home. And Yeah, we'll see. I'm also worried about my elderly dog doing a full flight of stairs. We live in a
Oh.
mid-century split level right now, so she frequently has started to fall down and even sort of up as she's going just the 6 stairs that we have times 2. And this is going to be a full, like, you know,
Do you have a sling?
I'm going to get one. I'm going to get one. And I think we're also going to use baby gates to control how frequently she can access the stairs, because I just don't want her doing them unnecessarily. We're already giving her all kinds of nutritional supplements and stuff like that. So, you know,
It's a tough time.
yeah, but I've heard those slings are great. You know, there's 2 different
Slings are
kinds.
great.
Yeah,
They make it a lot easier for you. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm currently already kind of helping her up if I ever see her struggling. So using a sling will make that even easier. So,
Yeah, for sure.
but yeah, Nooney's really excited. I'm actually going to be living a block away from my in-laws, so that's fun. Yeah, it'll be cool.
Good. All right.
Congrats.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Who bragged? Who gets excited about living near their in-laws? They must be good in-laws.
Well, they're great. And my daughter gets to live a block from her grandparents. I mean, when I was growing up, my grandparents were across the country my whole childhood, and they still are. So I'm excited for her and for all of us.
Oh, good.
Very good.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night. See you soon.
Bye.